Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 19 of Touring the Londonverse. I'm your host ScottBGaming, and today, as you've requested, the company we'll be looking at for this episode is the United Kingdom Wrestling Frontier, or the UKWF. As you can understand, they're based in the UK, the biggest company in the United Kingdom, and as it currently stands, Europe, but that's because Europe hasn't got an active scene at the moment. You can see from the data here, selected James' avatar, default settings, and we've simmed right up to the first show, which is a television show. You might have noticed a little bit of a different layout around me on the screen here. In fact, I think that they'll be above me. Hopefully you like the little change. I mean, obviously I'll be making tweaks as I go along in this series and in other series, but just a little thing for you guys to take a look at and see if it takes your fancy. Right, first of all, we'll maximise that bad boy right back to where it should be. And we'll go to the main hub of the promotion. Now, as you can see from here, I've selected myself as the owner. We're at cult size and the 8th ranked company in the Londonverse starting data. That's pretty good, and we've got $5 million in the bank. Prestige is at D-, momentum C, and the next show is the UKWF This Is Wrestling, which is a weekly television show. I don't have anything I really need to sort out there. We've got Marcy Rogers as a manager without any clients, but again, for diary purposes that could be amended, but at the moment she doesn't have any clients, but we'll cover her in the roster, which we'll take a look at now. Just move this over a little bit. And we start with Mr. Brett Minted. Now, the boy billionaire, Brett Minted, he's 31 years of age, he's a middleweight, he's a main eventer and has got a rich snob gimmick. A bit, I don't know, he looks like someone that you very much would like to punch. I do like this character in the company. I've just realised now that I've still left the Fog of War on, so you'll have to take my word for it when I tell you how good or bad the person is. He's pretty decent, to be fair. In-ring wise, pretty good. We can see he's got pretty strong technical abilities, and I think that's a theme with a lot of people in the UKWF. They do have solid fundamentals, and that is translated in the UKWF company. Owned by the Rogers family, a very prestigious wrestling family out of the UK. Oscar Rogers, I believe, is the starting owner of the company, but obviously for the purpose of this video I've taken his job, so sucks to be you, I guess, Oscar. But Brett Minted is a very good hand to have around in the main event scene. In 31 years of age, he's probably going to be there for the foreseeable future as well, alongside his manservant Scott Stanton. Here we see Charles Furnion, a retired professional wrestler from the UK scene. He's now transitioned into the role of colour commentator for the UKWF. Christian Nineveh, a reflection of perfection, and that's self-titled of course. Quite a talented youngster. I think for the meantime, enhancement talent, opener, low, mid-carder is where I would see him staying. For storyline purposes, immediately nothing comes to mind, but that isn't to say that something wouldn't if I was doing a long-term game with them. He's a good prospect to have on the roster, definitely, and someone that probably wouldn't quite fit in with Scottish Wrestling Champions, who we saw a few episodes back. So, as they're the only two starting companies in the Londonverse data for the UK scene, I think UKWF pretty much gets the pick of any talent they want. So, Christian Nineveh is probably going to have to deal with being kept at low mid-card status if it was me booking this company. Move on now to the 37-year-old Daniel Rogers, the firstborn son of Oscar Rogers, and a fantastic worker in the ring, where we can see his chain wrestling and mat wrestling 83 and 84 respectively. Submission 79, I mean, the basics and psychology are there. He's got everything going that you'd want for a main eventer. He's a heel, old school heel, a bit of a, well, he could be a bit of a shooter. He's not necessarily, but I see him being that kind of guy that would possibly take liberties with you if you crossed him. I do like this character greatly. I think he's obviously a better main eventer than Brett Minted, but that's no disrespect intended for Mr. Minted. And this is someone that often and has regularly held the UKWF title. Now, behind the scenes we've been working, or, well, not myself personally actually, but the title histories have been worked upon by Tiberius for the most part. And yeah, Daniel Rogers has held the UKWF title a few times. It's not yet been put into the data, but it will be shortly. Recently I've just been just rendering characters for free agency, and I've been, in fact today, I've put in a lot of free agents into the data. So the numbers are still adding up, which is good. Move on now to Dark Druid. Nathan Burke is his real name, was an indie wrestler first of all. Let me have a quick look at the bio here. Basically, yeah, as expected, he didn't make an impact really until he kind of took on the role of Dark Druid, and then obviously got a bit more work because of the look that it gave him. Now he's a middleweight competitor as well. He's a lower mid-carder. I'd probably have him around mid-card status. I think that's fair. In-ring wise, he's very good. Well, very good might be a bit of an exaggeration, but he is good. He's serviceable and he'll get the job done. I think long-term prospects, I don't know. I wouldn't rule out pushing him higher up the card. It really does depend on how he develops and the destiny role that he's been given in the game. But I don't hate the character. We haven't actually come across any of the characters that I dislike at the moment. One of the better characters, or one of my favourites in this company, is this man, Dave the Big Issue Dolman. A regular sight outside job centres across the northeast. Looks a little bit like Giant Haystacks, or Haystacks Calhoun even, from old times. Old times. That's dating it for anyone who actually remembers seeing those individuals compete in the ring. Apologies, no offence was intended. Brawler, which would make sense because he's a big fatty and can't do much about it, unfortunately. Rumble stats are pretty good though. Entertainment, from what I recall, was pretty decent. Not much in the way of star quality though, has to be said, but I think the look's pretty funny and I would enjoy booking him. Lower mid-card and mid-card I think is fair enough. That's where I'd keep him for the foreseeable future. Move on now to someone who is probably a bit of a prospect, and that's DeMarcus Webb. Yes, he's 32 years of age. He is an upper mid-card face. He's a hustler, native of London, bit of a Cockney wide boy. He's got stats in-ring wise that are very good, and it's someone that I would look to get into the main event scene before too long. The main event scene is quite good with the likes of Daniel Rogers and Douglas Shamrock and Tyson Iron, who we're seeing coming up. But this is a guy that could get there, and as you can see, he's already the UKWF All-British Champion. Now, I think he's elevated that title to about as far as he's going to be able to take it. It might be time to pass it on to someone else and have him go for a main event feud shortly. Moving on now to the UKWF Heavyweight Champion himself, Mr. Douglas Shamrock, aka the Invader from the Isle. He's a big Irish lad, doesn't take his look after anyone, obviously. He's so pale that you could probably see his heart beating behind his ribcage. He's a main event face, Irish rogue, damn good in the ring, 29 years of age. I see a lot of things happening for this guy in the future. Not necessarily getting poached by a bigger company, because I think he'd probably stay in the UK, or Europe for that matter, for quite some time. And I think it's quite interesting, because I know he did have an interesting feud canonically with James Rogers, who's one of the nicer Rogers relatives. Bit of a David and Goliath type situation there, with Douglas Shamrock being quite significantly bigger than his opponent. I think he's a very good foil for the Rogers families in general. I think Daniel Rogers could probably have a pretty good match with him as well. Obviously they're both heel, so it'd be a case of which one you'd want to turn, and you probably have to think. I'd probably end up turning Rogers. Oh, I don't know actually. No, Shamrock could probably do a decent job at face as well. But anyway, he's the main eventer. He's the champion. He's the top of the pile as we speak. Move on now to Mr. Engelbert Smothers. The high-minded Engelbert Smothers calls himself the necessary superior of the undeserving populace. Basically, he's a bit of a snob. He looks down his nose at people, and I like that, because I do that too in public. Just being honest with you. His in-ring skills are pretty decent. Chain wrestling and mat wrestling are good. He is 36 years of age, and I think mid-card is where I would keep him. It's certainly not bad, but not someone I see long-term prospects for going into title matches. But again, I'm there to be proven wrong. I'm happy to have him in the company. It's not someone I'll be demoting or getting rid of or anything like that. And here we have Explosive, the first and I believe only masked worker in this company. 31 years of age, he's a cruiserweight, he's an opener, daredevil gimmick, quite an exciting mask with exciting hair as well. In-ring wise, he's not particularly great, but he is someone that would, open a lot of shows and have relatively okay matches with flippy-floppy action. I don't see him going too higher up the card, and that's not because of the character or anything like that. I just don't think his skills will get to that point where I can do that with him. But again, not someone I'd get rid of. Move on now to, and I've got to be very careful how I pronounce this because God knows what I'm going to say otherwise. Garje Gurung, I will say that. The son of Nepalese immigrants, and he's gone full on with the gimmick to make himself stand out from the other characters. Japanese Junior as well. I very much like this guy actually. He is a lower mid-carder, someone that I would happily probably take to mid-carder before too long, and then see where he goes from there. He's got a bit of a thug gimmick. I think it's just a bit of a a brawler, really. I mean, his in-ring style isn't that of a brawler, but that's just how you see him, like someone rough and tough and a bit stiff in the ring to work with, I would imagine. I'm very happy to have him there. 29 years of age, I see a bright prospect for Garje Gurong. Moving now to Giovanni Trappetta. Giovanni Trappetta is English-born of Sicilian descent, playing up the kind of suave, greasy look, I think, to a T here. Cruiserweight competitor. Again, someone I see more of an upside to than I do explosive. I think he's got slightly better in-ring skills to be able to go up the rankings of this company. He's also part of the tag team with Sal Maldini as Men of Honor. He is the got the gang leader gimmick. It's pretty good. I do like Giovanni Trappetta. Moving on to James Avatar, which is myself. And here we have James Rogers, 25 years of age, the youngest son of England's famous Rogers family. Now, in-ring wise, he's going to get to be pretty decent, I think, in his day. He's already a main eventer just because of the surname attached to him, that things were expected, and that's why he's already at the level of main eventer. I don't mind with that, though, although he is a brawler, and I think that's probably mainly because of the people he's been feuding with the likes of Douglas Shamrock. Not as talented, and probably never will be, I'll say, as talented as Daniel Rogers, unless he gets a ridiculous Destiny role. And that's not slight on James, it's just that Daniel is that good in the ring. But again, time is on his side. He's probably going to be around the main event scene for as long as he wants to, or as long as the Rogers family retain ownership of the company. I think he's a good hand to have. Might be someone that you actually might need to, in the short term, demote slightly into upper mid-carder. I think that would be better for him, so it wouldn't put as much pressure on him having to headline shows. Move on now to the massive, the giant. I think there's only 2 or 3 giants so far in this data. This is one of them, and it's John Kronk. Veteran heavyweight brawler. He's 40 years of age. He's starting to wind down now, but he does do a decent job of road agency. In ring, he is, apart from brawling, he is absolutely crap, but his basics in psychology obviously help him to do the road agency gig. Now, not as cumbersome as the likes of the Andre the Giants of the real world. He's in relatively good shape, and by that I mean, I'm thinking a bit smaller than the likes of Giant Gonzalez, a bit built more like Nathan Jones, and he can move about Nathan Jones' ability, or as well as Nathan Jones could. So that's what I'm having in my head as far as his overall look. And I try to get the camera angle right for the render to kind of give that imposing figure. And there's a person who's one of the older workers in the Londonverse data who's not yet in the data by the name of Goliath, who's actually now deceased in game terms, but he's the first giant of pro wrestling. You might see a bit of similarity between him and another individual, but I digress. John Kronk, in his day, was probably quite the attraction in the UK wrestling scene when the UK scene was slightly bigger, but only slightly through mainstream recognition on TV. And don't get me wrong, it does have a television show now, but it's not as popular as it once was. I think John Kronk plays a bit of a bumbling idiot, or not a bumbling idiot, but someone who doesn't really say anything, he's just there, and that can come across as slightly dim-witted at times. But he flips between the two, almost like what was his name? Luke Gallows, I guess, when he was playing Festus, but not to the point where he's sitting there like that. But you know, he kind of has that wild side in him, and the brawling side that Festus had. That's what I see John Kronk having. So there's a lot of different influences that are rolled into this one character here. But anyway, we move on now to Jorma Jurassic. I believe this character you will have already seen in Oriental Fight Club, the Beast from the East. He's also a paper appearance contract in the UKWF. So I'll give a brief analysis of where I see him in this company. I won't go too much into his character in general. That was covered in the OFC. And I think this character is only ever going to be a mid-carder in this company. He'd probably have some decent brawls with even like a Douglas Shamrock to get Douglas Shamrock over as being a badass. Beyond that, I won't be pushing him too high up the card. In fact, I'll probably keep him, like I said, where he is at the moment, which is mid-carder. But again, it's brawling and stuff. It is pretty good. Move on now to Logan Campbell, wrestler from Scotland, who SWC will probably take in a heartbeat. 29 years of age, cruiserweight. Again, someone who I see on the level of your Garje Gurongs and just a step down from Garje Gurong, but on the Giovanni Trappetta's level, certainly. In-ring wise, he's pretty decent. He is an opener, and he's got the clubber gimmick. Part of the tag team with Rory Carr, the Scottish National Party Boys, or the SNP. See what I did there, anyone from the UK? It's a different gimmick, and they're pretty handy in the tag team division, and he is a good cruiserweight in his own right. So I do like the guy with his visor. So apparently that's what kids do these days. I say the kids, 29. Luke Moore, the anti-hero, the son of Texmore, an American wrestler who actually relocated to the UK, and that being his dad, not Luke Moore. So Luke Moore is actually the son of an American professional wrestler, but who was born in the UK himself. I get very much a Jake the Snake Roberts vibe from Luke Moore. At one point, I think he was actually a champion in SWC before he came back to the UKWF, so there's a lot of tension there for him. He's a main eventer, got the Rebel gimmick, some decent tats, and his stats as well are pretty good. I do like this guy. I think he'd have a very interesting and well-spoken promo like you Jake the Snake Roberts, where never raises his voice, just gets to the pond. He gets to the pond, feeds the ducks, comes home, goes to the show, then does his promo, where he gets to the point precisely without ever raising his voice, but it's very intimidating, and he's got an aura about him, and that's where I see Luke Moore going. Now, Marcy Rogers, the daughter of legendary British grappler Oscar Rogers, she's a manager, bitch. That's the gimmick, and that's not just me calling her a bitch, although she's probably a bit of a bitch as well. She actually used to manage, I think it was the elder brother, Daniel Rogers, for quite a while. But she actually, well, mainly because she turned on her younger brother to help her fiance, which is Nolan Knight, a gentleman we'll be seeing in a couple of characters' time. Not really too much to say about Marcy Rogers, but a decent look about her, but not an in-ring worker herself, so just there for the manager's role. Move on now to Martin Gallagher, one half of the UKWF tag team The Hooligans, alongside his partner Rodney Shaw. Now, this guy is probably just going to stay in the tag team division forever. I don't really see much for him at the moment as a singles worker. 32 years of age, his Rumble stats are pretty good, everything else is quite forgettable. But again, he serves the purpose of being in the tag team division. Move on to Matthias Morton. He's the announcer for the company. Mickey Tyndall, the cheeky chappy, as his nickname would suggest. He's a bit of a fun babyface, although he's got the gimmick of fabulous heel at the moment because he is working the heel side of things. He's a mid-carder. In-ring wise, he's okay. He's certainly not bad. Potentially a future star in the company. He's got a decent look about him as well. So I'd have to see how things panned out for him, but he could do quite well. I think he would do quite well. Move on now to Nolan Knight, the fiancé of Marcy Rogers, Mr. 24/7. Quite interesting facial hair, very CM Punk-esque in about 2012, I want to say. Maybe 13 now. Upper mid-carder, heel, no gimmick needed, just has a smug face. I think, again, someone who you could probably get into the main event scene and would do a very good job there as well if you look at his stats on the right-hand side. So he's another one with, I'm trying to remember the gentleman's name who we saw earlier, who I said I'd put there, DeMarcus Webb, that was it, who I'd put in the main event scene. Nolan Knight is also on that level. And here we have Oscar Rogers, most potentially or arguably the most talented worker to ever come out of the United Kingdom. He is the founder of the UKWF, although now, as I said, he's got the role of road agent actually, so he's not completely useless in this company. Yeah, like I said, is a legend in his own right and someone who would be probably quite interesting to draw up a more detailed bio for if we ever actually do a retrospective mod of the Londonverse. Move on now to Pitbull Jr., the son of the late Pitbull Bite. Now, Pitbull Jr. is 29 years of age, took after his father in the ring, and is actually now a tag team champion and is partnering his dad's former tag team partner, Pitbull Snarl. Now, very good for the tag team division. Again, that's where I see them staying, much with the likes of your Martin Gallagher's and your Rodney Shaw's. He's not bad by any stretch of the imagination, but like I said, I just see his future being in the tag team, at least for the short term. And we move on now to the 40-year-old Pitbull Snarl. Now, like I said, this is the tag team partner of the late Pitbull Bite. Upper mid-carder, Pitbull gimmick. I like the look. I think it's a pretty damn good look, actually, I have to say. In-ring wise, his stats are pretty decent. He's got very good brawling, but he is 40 years of age, so I don't see him breaking any ground in the singles division. Maybe give him, like, when he's on his way out, a title match or something like that, just to say a thank you. Because he is a good worker in his own right. But again, like I said, age would just hold him back that little bit. Referee Jonas Marksman. Referee Leroy Buttle. Move on now to Mr. Live Event, Reggie Lucas. Not going to be winning any heavyweight titles, as the bio said, anytime soon. He's a lightweight competitor, cruiserweight, but I do see a decent upside to him if his stats improve. I think he's got quite a good look about him. He's a Welshman, cocky youth gimmick, potentially one for the future. We'd have to see what comes out on the who's hot, who's not, ones to watch list for the future. Moving on now to Ricky Romano, the Spanish sensation, 40 years of age. So he's very much in the same kind of boat as your Pitbull Snarls. He's winding down his career, although his stats have already started to tank a little bit. And this is probably one of the only individuals I'd look to eventually releasing in a company, because he doesn't have anything that stands out to warrant keeping him around, especially on a written contract. Roderick Dent, rough and tough brawler from London, light heavyweight, upper mid-card heel, badass. Again, this is probably someone, his brawling skills are very good, and that would probably be enough to get him in the main event for my money, with your DeMarcus Webbs. As it currently stands, I think there are better heels on the main event scene, so he might have to play second fiddle for a while, seeing as the champion and one of the Daniel Rogers, is a main event heel, so that probably puts him at least third of the heel side of things. But again, he'd probably make a decent face actually, so that would be something to consider as well. Rodney Shaw, the tag team partner of the hooligan Martin Gallagher, coming from the mean streets of Manchester, upper mid-carder, thug gimmick. Again, pretty much what I said for his partner applies here as well. I don't see him doing anything long term. Probably less actually than Martin Gallagher, to be honest. Rory Carr, the other half of the Scottish National Party boys, 31 years of age, slightly older than his partner, only by a couple of years though, and in ring he's about on the same level. So again, not someone that I'd see being a breakout single star, but I'm happy to keep them around in the tag team division at least for now. Move on to Sal Maldini. Now this is the tag team partner of, let me have a quick look here, Giovanni Trapatta. He is second fiddle, I think it's fair to say, but in ring wise he is very good as well. He's actually Italian born as well, with whereas Trapatta was born to Sicilian immigrants. Sal Maldini is full-blooded Italian, if you will. He was channeling the late great Dusty Rhodes there. Also got the gang leader gimmick, so very much mafia type characters, and I think they'll be quite fun to book. Move on now to the manservant of the boy billionaire. That's Scott Stanton. Someone that's pretty much being lined up to break out against Brett Minted and basically beat him into the ground, because he is a bigger gentleman, and brawling wise he's okay. There's nothing else that really stands out about him. Interesting look, but 36 years of age, probably not going to be a world or a UKWF champion at any point, or yeah, no, probably ever, to be fair. I don't think I'd necessarily give him the title. That's not to say I wouldn't use him, but probably just not for that purpose. Stephen Bourne, a Welsh retired cruiserweight competitor who now does the work of a road agent for the company. Thomas Mayfair, born into a wealthy family, got the rich snob gimmick as well, enhancement talent, would make a decent tandem with Brett Minted actually, just the better than news or something like that. That'd be a name for the tag team, I guess. 27 years of age. I think, again, he's someone to keep your eye out for in the promotion long term. He could be someone that eventually gets to main event status, depending on how he develops. But at the moment, he's only an enhancement talent. But I could probably get him to mid-carder before too long. Move on now to Tully Hill, former tag team competitor, retired, and he also does road agency work for the company. Tyler Marshall, the eldest active worker on the roster at 41 years of age. Tough guy, with a bit of Clooneyism about him, just with the peppered hair, I guess, and a bit of the stubble. He's a mid-carder, machine gimmick. Slightly better than the Spanish sensation that we saw earlier, Ricky Romano. So I think... Well, he's actually been tag teaming recently with Ricky Romano, but Tyler Marshall, for my money, is better. And even though he is older, but only slightly, he's probably going to be someone I'd keep around, definitely more so than his newfound tag team partner. And finally, we move to probably the main face behind James Rogers. In fact, I'd say probably is the first face of the company, and that's Tyson Iron, 29 years of age. entertainer, heavyweight, main eventer, old school face. In ring wise is pretty good. It's someone that I could see even being taken to America. I think he's got the talent to do that. And someone who had very, very good feuds with Douglas Shamrock, and I think that would be the initial feud that I would have. And that covers the entirety of the UKWF roster. So what we'll do now is we will go and have a look at the storylines, which I don't think there are any, and I was correct. Have a look at the titles then, because we all like to see a nice little title render, don't we? So here we have the UKWF All British title. Again, these title belts were created by Mr. MJ Stark. Thank you very much, sir. And the current champion is DeMarcus Webb. Have a look now at the UKWF Heavyweight Champion, and that's Douglas Shamrock. Very nice title render there. And the UKWF Tag Team Champions are held by Pitbull Jr. and Pitbull Snarl. Again, very nice tag team belt there. So, let's have a look at the tag teams in general. So here we have Men of Honor, which is Sal Maldini and Giovanni Trappetta. Old Age Punishers, Tyler Marshall and Ricky Romano. OAPs, very clever acronym. Scottish National Party Boys, which is Logan Campbell and Rory Carr. The Hooligans of Rodney Shaw and Martin Gallagher. The Upper Crust, Engelbert Smothers and Thomas Mayfair. And the UK Pitbulls Mark II, Pitbull Jr. and Pitbull Snarl. Okay. Don't think there are any stables, no. Just wanted to double check though. Now let's have a look at the creative meeting here. So we can see the franchise players. We've got Tyson Iron, Daniel Rogers, Luke Moore, Brett Minted and James Rogers. Yep. Ooh, Douglas Shamrock isn't on that list. Very interesting. Next big things, no one. Hot prospects. Got quite a few. Got Thomas Mayfair, Mickey Tyndall, Christian Nineveh, Reggie Lucas and Logan Campbell. That I can work with that list. Quite happy with that. Shame that you haven't got some of the other gentlemen that I mentioned. Would be quite nice to have appear on this list, but again, this will randomise each time. Talk the talk. Tyson Iron, John Kronk, Christian Nineveh, Luke Moore and Thomas Mayfair. Showstoppers, Daniel Rogers, John Kronk, Pitbull Snarl, Luke Moore and DeMarcus Webb. Another reason to put DeMarcus Webb in the main event. Ring Generals, Daniel Rogers, Pitbull Snarl, Nolan Knight, Luke Moore and Tyler Marshall. Who's hot? Brett Minted, Douglas Shamrock, so at least he's on that list. DeMarcus Webb, Roderick Dent and John Kronk. Who's not? Nolan Knight, Daniel Rogers, Dave Dolman, Rodney Shaw, Pitbull Snarl. Couple unfortunate ones there. Time decline, so we've got Tyler Marshall, John Kronk and Ricky Romano, all of which you'd expect. Hidden Gems, again this is being worked on in the background. In fact, almost everyone on this list is in another company. Christian Kimmich is in SWC. Piero Medici is also in SWC, I think. Could be wrong, but I believe he is. Jonas James is a free agent. Christoph Dynamite, also a free agent. And Arne Martinson, also a free agent. There are other people that I bring in instead of those guys. Christoph Dynamite might get a look in though. But now we will go and book the show. The bit you've all been waiting for. Have a look at WCW, a beast in that company, Karma Kills. The final women's promotion yet to be covered. Okay, for convenience, Edgware Hall has been booked. What in the blue Jesus has happened to my screen here? Okay, let's maximise that. There we go. That's better. Okay, so we've got a backstage rating of 73. That's pretty nice. We'll have a look at the locker room incident. Brett Minted. Did he fart on something? Brett Minted has gotten a lot of heat with the rest of the locker room due to his recent attitude, and there are signs that it could turn into a very bad situation if not handled soon. As his employer, you now have to choose how to deal with the situation. I'm going to give him the riot act. This is a complete waste of time. You're a complete waste of time, you ginger prick. No offence to any redheads out there, but just some of these characters you want to throttle. He is now on my shit list. Only got 90 minutes to book. That makes a bit of a change for us, but it's something that we should be able to adapt to without little problem. Without little problem? With little problem. Okay. Right. Let's throw some matches on here, see what we can do. Just thinking what I want to do on this show. Brett Minted is going to get crushed, and that will be by James Rogers. Get some of that momentum for Mr. Rogers as well. If Brett Minted complains, all the better. That's not going to be the main event, so I'll have it go a bit less. It will be James Rogers winning, Brett Minted losing. I hate to do it, but it will be an open match. Okay, we'll now have a tag team, not tag team title match, but we will have a tag team match. And it will be a main event affair, I think. Probably between these gentlemen that you see here on the list. So Daniel Rogers is a heel, Douglas Shamrock is a face. When the frick did that happen? So everything I said earlier in the video about him being a heel, he's not, he's a face. I thought he was a heel. Okay, so Douglas Shamrock will go on the other side. Luke Moore's a face and Tyson Iron's a face. Okay, Tyson Iron will team with Douglas Shamrock, and we will look for an upper mid-card heel to work alongside Mr. Daniel Rogers. Roderick Dent will probably do a good job. Or should I even put John Kronk? John Kronk, I think that'd be quite fun. This is going to be your main event. John Kronk's legs might fall off though in this one. So I'm going to let it go a while. Might protect him actually. Or have limited involvement. I think I'll let Daniel Rogers get the win actually. After Kronk does all the damage. Not because he's not able to do it himself, but just because if you've got a giant there, I mean, utilise it. So I'll have Tyson Iron take the loss. I want John Kronk to have limited involvement, but I want him to do like the final blow. So that's the main event sorted. Have another tag team match, a bit lower on the card. Why not let's have the tag team titles up for grabs. And it will be the UK Pitbulls, the title holders. Against the Hooligans. I'd have had the heel face swap the other way around, I think, for this, but okay, that's fine, that's what we're dealing with, that's not a problem. Tag team titles on the line. We'll have Pitbull Jr. win. Rodney Shaw to lose, but I might have it done by disqualification, which would lead up to, say, a show at the pay-per-view for like a hardcore match or a street fight, something like that. With these workers, that can be done. So we'll do that. Have a singles match. Put DeMarcus Webb in there, I think. Against someone on his level. Nolan Knight, that'd be quite fun. And I might get Nolan Knight. Actually, no, because they're both, I see them being on the same level, I'll let the computer decide this one. So I won't hit that at all. I'll just do that, save. That's fine. What will be on that. So I need 20 more minutes, and I need to have some angles on there. So I might just have one last match on the card, and then a couple of angles. And we will have Garje Gurong going up against Dave Dolman, just because I like him. Again, I'd normally do pre-show matches and what have you to get more people on the card, but for now, that's alright. Victor is not going to be Dave Dolman. How it happens, I don't really mind. So save that. That'll probably open the show. Actually, no, I think DeMarcus Webb and Nolan Knight would be quite a nice show opener. Oh, I've got a bit more time than I thought. I was reading the wrong part. So we'll put another match on here, actually. tag team match, and then we'll have a couple of angles. Means, well, at least it means I get to put a few more workers on the card. Let's put an actual tag team match on. So we'll have Men of Honor. It's going to have to be the old age Punishers, unfortunately. And you better believe the Men of Honor are going to win this. I might open with this. I think that's fair. We'll have the Ricky Romano, the Spaniard. Lose this just because he's probably the one that would fall out of the company before long. Okay, alright. So let's have an angle. Get a couple of talking angles on here. So promo. I'm trying to think. Brett Minted. Actually, yeah, I'll let Brett Minted shout off about his match later on with James, saying he's always been better than a Rogers anyway because money gave him that. Let that go 5 minutes. That will maybe open the show, and then he'll get the shit kicked out of him later. So that's always good. I've got 5 more minutes, I might as well use it. So, just have a guy shouting about how awesome he is, so it'll be a generic one. Actually. Yep. Maybe have a reveal. Don't know what that would fall under though. Probably not going to be in this section at all, to be fair. Okay, I'll tell you what I'll do. It's going to be John Kronk just crushing a couple of people earlier in the card instead of a match, and that's why Daniel chooses him to be on his side. So Christian Nineveh and maybe Explosive as well. So say they were going to have a match and John Kronk just comes out and just murderises them. Yes, that's a new word, murderises. That should be pretty good because John Kronk's like a giant, so might have that there. And that should be good for us to book the show, or run the show. Yep, let's see what happens. What damage have we done? Okay, right, so this was taking place in front of 2,000 people at Edgware Hall. It's live on the UK Broadcasting Secondary. Brett Minted cuts a promo hyping up his upcoming match with James Rogers. That gets a C+, not too bad. In a battle that had solid in-ring action and average heat, Men of Honor defeated Old Age Punishers in 8 minutes 1 when Giovanni Trappetta defeated Ricky Romano by pinfall with a For the Family. D+, that's a shame. Next match, in a match that had some good action and average heat, Nolan Knight defeated DeMarcus Webb in 9 minutes 36 by submission with a Steel Armory. Now that's quite interesting because I was tempted to have Nolan Knight win anyway and the computer decided that's good. It's the Rogers effect there for you. Yeah, a match I didn't expect to do much. In a battle that had solid in-ring action and average heat, Garjay Gurong defeated Dave Dolman in 8 minutes 20 by pinfall with a Mercenary Payout. Oh, I thought this was going to do a little bit better. Christian Nineveh and Explosive were in the ring. Out of nowhere, John Kronk hits the ring and attacks. The assault is quick and brutal and leaves both teammates completely destroyed. John Kronk was a real star in this segment. Christian Nineveh looked lost out there. Oh well, we tried. A match that gets a C. In a match that had some good action and average heat, UK Pitbulls defeated the Hooligans in 12 minutes 5 when Rodney Shaw was disqualified while fighting Pitbull Jr. UK Pitbulls make defence number 1 of their UKWF Tag Team titles. In about that had a good crowd and good action, James Rogers defeated Brett Minted in 15 minutes and 4 seconds by pinfall with a frog splash, and that gets C, so that's okay. Hopefully the main event will be a good one, although I'm worried now. Okay, not bad. In about that had a good crowd and good action, Daniel Rogers and John Cronk defeated Douglas Shamrock and Tyson Iron in 90 minutes 59 seconds when Daniel Rogers defeated Tyson Iron by pinfall with a fisherman's suplex. The flow of the match was hurt because of some of the workers having little or no involvement. I think it was important, otherwise John Cronk would have been gassed really badly quite early. So I'm happy with that. Still happy I made that decision. And the show lost us popularity in 5 regions. That's unfortunate because I don't think the show was too bad overall. Again, I could have tweaked a couple of things here or there if it was going for a longer term game, but I just wanted to give you a bit of a flavour of the UKWF. Now that brings us to the end of the UKWF episode. Now if you have liked this video, please do hit that like button, and if you haven't yet, do subscribe already. We're creeping closer to 50 subscribers now. I know what I'm going to do for the first special video. I won't reveal anything yet, but you guys should enjoy it out there. For the next company, I'll let you guys again comment down below, let me know which you'd like me to do, and then I'll take that into account before I do the next filming. Thank you everyone though for watching this with me, and until next time, I'll see you around, guys.